The town was in disbelief.
And then 2 years later, Denise Haraway disappeared.
The police charged Tommy Ward and Carl Fontenot.
Check out Tommy, I didn't think you'd ever do anything like this.
Once the confession tapes were played, these people were guilty.
If it wasn't true, you wouldn't say it.
It's like a damn game, man. I don't know why they keep wanting me to think, no, I didn't do this.
Hey, man, I believe you. Let's start the show.
In its 5th year, welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, man, I'm Brian Brushwood, but most importantly, I assume that guy didn't do it. After all he said,
He's an
they know I
innocent
didn't do it.
Innocent man.
That's
like Billy Joel sang.
Okay, I'm sure this guy's guilt and or innocence is important, but not as important. Did I hear you correctly? Are we entering our 5th year?
Oh, no, we are entering, in a couple of weeks, our 6th year.
Holy cow, we are wrapping up our 5th year. That's amazing.
5-year anniversary coming up. Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. It has been an honor to serve with you, but not as much of an honor as it is to be with our super producer extraordinaire, one Bryce Neshcom Castillo.
Hi.
Tell us about this true crime documentary.
So that was a trailer for The Innocent Man, a coming true crime documentary series on Netflix. It's based off the real story that inspired the John Grisham book, The Innocent Man. It is about the death of 2 young women in Oklahoma, I believe, and the 4 men who were jailed for their death. That is streaming on Netflix December 14th.
Do you feel like this is a follow-up, an intentional follow-up? Like, what if we did Making a Murderer, only our guy was actually innocent this time?
So we only used a part of the trailer, but you should go check out the trailer, because then it goes like, well, the evidence doesn't even support their confession, so they didn't even confess to the right thing, and so they believe that there's a lot of small town secrets and intrigue.
Right on.
Which is a very weird tone to have about a murder.
Well, it's an innocent man.
But which one?
Although I guess there had to be a murder for someone to have to be declared innocent of something. So there you go. Hey, I am innocent in not forgetting to introduce our guest today. Nicole Lee is back on the show. How's it going, Nicole?
Huzzah!
I'm good. How are you? How was the 2-week-old Thanksgiving hangover, if you still have hangovers?
I ate the last of the turkey for lunch today.
Man,
there you go.
I am feeling the last vestiges of shame from stepping on the scale after Thanksgiving. So my hangover is almost over too.
Oh my goodness.
Yay! And into the holidays. All right, folks, let's start with our primary target. Sources are telling The Hollywood Reporter that YouTube plans to scale back original scripted programming starting in 2020. Now, they're not killing it off entirely. In fact, YouTube's Robert Kinsel says the company is going to shift towards free viewing of originals. YouTube is testing some plans where YouTube Premium subscribers would just get the episodes early, or maybe they'd get extended cuts in addition to the commercial free and music and all the stuff that's included in YouTube Premium now. So Brian, I think this is interesting. YouTube sort of not saying they want to get out of originals, but saying it turns out people don't really like to pay just to see shows on YouTube. And they're looking at a lot of channels that will have memberships where the members get the posts early, but everybody still gets everything for free on the channel.
Yeah, I'd hate to put it so bluntly, but this is a good call on their parts. I think that they've played everything pretty much perfectly so far. I resisted going to YouTube Premium up until Cobra Kai came out, and they did a great job with that by offering the first 2 and what looks like the 3rd episode free, but then you think you're watching the 3rd episode and it turns out you were just watching a snippet, and it's like, hey man, now's the time to spend the money. And of course I did exactly what I'm sure they hope would happen, which is sign up intending to get rid of it later. And then guess what? 2 months, 6 months, 8 months later, I really like having no ads, and I really like living in the YouTube Premium ecosystem. So in that regard, maybe they've already done what they need to do, and now what they need to do is go to work on individual communities. Because, for example, with Modern Rogue or so on, they could come to us and they could say, hey, you seem to have a passionate fan base. You seem to offer bonus content through your Patreon portal or whatever. What if we made that content available to premium subscribers in a certain way? And I think I could be talked right into that, and I bet a lot of our fans could as well.
Yeah, I think like Do all of you subscribe to YouTube Premium?
I do
Red?
now, and I didn't set out to. I think Bryce was the first among us to give it a try, right?
Yeah, I had it
I
for a
actually
while.
no, I've had it since it launched because I was paying for Google Play Music, and just by paying for that,
That's
they
right.
gave me YouTube Red back when it was called YouTube Red.
Yeah, that was the same thing that happened to me, Tom, was that I actually signed up because of music. And then, you get YouTube Red as a bonus. Like, yeah, okay, that sounds great. And I got so used to not having ads that after a while, like even when the Google Play Music sort of like died away a little bit, I still kept it because I just like not having ads so much that I kept it, which is why I was a little salty when they raised the rates, I think, sometime last year or something like that. And I was, oh God, like an extra how many dollars a month. And I never, like, even though I was paying for YouTube Red, I barely watched any of the originals. I maybe watched like maybe a series or two or something, and I just didn't watch anything else. But I kept it mostly just because of the ad-free promise. And I'm curious, I'm probably not the only one. I'm guessing like a lot of people don't really watch those YouTube originals, and they probably did sign up just for like music or just for the no ads. And yeah, I'm not surprised at all, really.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of the originals to any significant amount. I haven't even watched Cobra Kai, which I know is good because Brian tells me it's good, and a bunch of other people do too. So I know I'll enjoy it. I just haven't got around to watching it. So I think YouTube is realizing they have a bit of a discovery problem, and the way you solve a discovery problem when you also own the world's largest video platform is use that platform to just put your stuff out there. And they did that, like Brian said, they did that with Cobra Kai, right? They put up a couple episodes out there and then tried to move you in. Viki, the Rakuten app that brings a bunch of Asian programming to the US and a bunch of other places, does a thing where a lot of the shows you get free with ads, or you can get them a couple of days earlier, closer to their air dates in their home market if you pay. And that's kind of compelling once you get hooked on a show, right? You go watch all the back catalog for free, and then you catch up and you're like, oh, wait, I have to wait a week for the next one, but I could get it in 2 days if I pay, and I'll get it earlier. I won't have to wait around for the next episode. And when everybody on Reddit is talking about that episode, I think YouTube's kind of hoping to foster that sort of situation.
I really don't know what else there is to chime in on this outside of that it's probably a generally speaking smart strategy. The only downside I could think of is that maybe there's a lower budget for Cobra Kai season 2.
Maybe, although if they're doing that ad support, I mean, they make a fair amount of cash on the ad. So, if they're scaling back the original scripted, maybe that'll kick some more cash. I don't know. I can think of some ways it might not be too bad for season 2. However, we will not be doing a season 2 of Cobra Kai Cordkillers style with Brian and I as the stars unless we get more patrons at patreon.com.
And it sounds like you're dangerously close to promising us doing a sweeted version of Cobra Kai featuring Tom Merritt and Brian Brushwood. The good news is we have a dojo, we have a fighting death pit, we've got land, we got territory to make this happen. But what we don't have is quite enough patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers. 5 years ago, you guys changed our lives. Coming up on our anniversary, we're going to give you a big old hug and a kiss. And thank you for changing our lives to make us loud, live, and independent, not beholden to any kind of network, not beholden to give ad reads for services that we don't believe in, which was a thing in a previous life that maybe there was a thing, but it's not anymore, and it's because of you guys. $1 an episode, that's all we ask.
I'm just saying, I wouldn't be averse to a little sweeting of Cobra Kai.
I mean, it'd be pretty great if we could see
pretty great.
Netflix.
It's not actually what I set out to promise at the beginning, but when you put it like that, I'm like, that sounds really fun.
We can get my daughter to beat up my other daughter, and you can bring your dogs and.
What are the dogs gonna do?
Fight each other in the fighting pit?
We have to kill
I don't know. We'll tune into After Talk. Maybe we'll put a number on this.
Okay,
we'll see.
all right,
Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Let's talk about how to watch. Now, this YouTube story that we just talked about puts me in this frame of mind. And we'd be silly if we thought Netflix-style subscriptions or cable replacement services like YouTube TV and PlayStation View are the only models we'll ever have for streaming. We sort of get locked into that thought process sometimes. Like, well, it's Netflix or Hulu Live TV. It's DirecTV Now, or it's Amazon Premium. there are going to be other ways that this business model is going to work. We're entering that world where it's no longer about like how you going to replace cable. It's what are all the ways you could possibly make a streaming service. So it's not surprising to see companies experimenting. Facebook added free TV shows this weekend, Buffy, Angel, Firefly, and set streaming times where they started streaming entire seasons of these shows on Facebook Watch. The idea being, let's all watch together these old shows that we all love from Joss Whedon and Friends. In fact, the Facebook official post about this said they're focused on bringing content to watch what people want to discuss and create a community around it, whether that's live sports like UEFA Champions League in Latin America, compelling shows like Sorry for Your Loss, Queen America, and Sacred Lies, or even nostalgia content like the Real World reboot Facebook is doing. So they're betting their money, it sounds like, Brian and Nicole, on what can we do that makes people show up on Facebook all at the same time and talk to each other about it.
This is a smart move, especially because it plays to their strength. Their strength is not the back catalog of originals that people are going to go nuts for. Their strength is the fact that they know who your friends are and that they're good at bugging you on their crappy iOS app at all times, letting you know which statistically significant person is most likely to cause you to re-engage with Facebook. So in that regard, and again, Facebook, whatever, we could talk about how nefarious they are, but as far as this play goes, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I've wanted this for years, doing real life, real time watch parties. I think there's a place for that. And I'm glad that they're able to figure out a way to get around the rights such that, even if it's old stuff, we're able to do that. What about you, Nicole?
I like it. I like the idea of it. I don't know if I like I don't know if I like that they're kind of going back to the old school model of setting times for, that's kind of the old school broadcast way, right? That's a certain time, it's a time and place, same time, same place, and every week. And that's kind of what they're going for. Like it's every Friday at 2 p.m. or something. That's this show you have to watch, and you have to gather all your friends at this time, at this location, at this specific moment. I'm not sure if I'm into that.
It does seem like you should be able to be the administrator of a party, and that one person could say, hey, I'm going to send out the invites. I'm going to figure out the right time. I'm going to gather our crowd. Hey, it's me. You're in my virtual house. I'm putting in the virtual DVD, and I'm hitting play now. And now we're all watching. I do agree. It is weird that they're deciding on a specific time, if that's how it goes down.
Well, yeah, I don't think you are prevented from doing what you guys are describing. The episodes were available all weekend. So I think you could create your own watch party. And I think Facebook was even encouraging you to do so. But what they were doing with the scheduled thing was, hey, if you want to be part of the simultaneous viewing watch party with Sarah Michelle Gellar promoting it, here, show up at 3 p.m. Saturday, show up at 12 p.m. Sunday, and we'll all do that all weekend long. And it was binging, as far as I know. If I may be wrong about that, but I think they just showed like all the episodes in a row. It wasn't like, oh, we'll do one this week and one next week like that.
And on the one hand, like I understand your point, Nicole, about like appointment viewing, but also I have really fond memories when before it was a WB affiliate, I forget which one, but one of the independent channels in Houston did a Star Trek marathon. And I remember my dad just recording Betamax tapes after Betamax tapes in order to time shift it for future. Definitely not to keep in a library. But I have fond memories of all that. And if some echo of that can remain nowadays that I could experience with other people, that seems like a smart play that nobody else is doing in any of the major distribution chains.
I agree that Facebook's advantage and over every other streaming services we mentioned is the social factor, is that it knows who your friends are, it knows the whole, they like what you like or you like what they like or something like that, and there's that network availability. Of course, Facebook is also pushing the watch together with Oculus, right? The whole that we can watch the same thing at the same time, and that's kind of their whole shtick. And this is definitely the way to do it, right? Having a watch party. And I think the appointment viewing with, like, again, Sarah Michelle Gellar being the star attraction of this thing is kind of cool. And it almost becomes like a like an AMA kind of. I don't know. I don't know if it's that interactive. I mean, I don't know actually.
Well,
but
and
maybe it can be that way.
Even
right?
if you don't have direct interaction, just feeling like you're sitting next to Sarah Michelle Gellar as she watches this and be like, "Oh my God, I don't remember that haircut at all," or whatever it is she's going to say. Like, there's value to that.
Yeah, one thing I noticed when I was using the Viki app on my phone is they have an option for chat that replays all previous comments that have been made by people while they were watching. Mm-hmm. So even though it's not actually a live chat, cumulatively, you're watching with other people and reacting at the same time. Now, you can't have direct conversations necessarily because they're not actually there. But for that sort of like, oh my gosh, I want to watch all the latest episodes of The Eternal Love from Tencent, and I'm a huge fan, and this is the only place I can get it. It feels like, oh, this is going to create community spirit because this is the only place they can get it. They're with like-minded people. There's not a lot of other people who like watching this except them, and they all appreciate it. They're all cheering for the same characters and booing the same characters, and it's really fun. So there's absolutely something to that. Whether it's, I mean, I get where Facebook's coming from is like, oh, but you know who else has a vital niche following is Joss Whedon. We'll do a bunch of Joss Whedon stuff, but you can get those elsewhere. There's no shortage of places to watch Buffy. In fact, Hulu has all these episodes too. They're non-exclusive. So what is it that they can do? And maybe it's the originals or someone else can do that feeds into that. Is it acquiring these kinds of niche episodes that aren't available elsewhere, but do have rabid followings already?
So, okay. So the most obvious thing is to carry sports, which they're already doing, right? They're already playing that game.
Or trying to in as many places as possible.
Second place is, let me tell you, like our friend John Hess over at Filmmaker IQ, if he were to put together, he says, hey, I have 10 movies and I'm going to explain to you real time why they're important and what you're going to get out of them. I'm going to look and maybe half of them I've seen before, but because I trust John and because I'm his friend on Facebook or whatever, I was like, yeah, I'm going to show up for however many of these. And if I miss it live, I'm going to watch the replay with him live texting during 2001, explaining things about aspect ratios and how the special effects were accomplished and what the controversies were behind the scenes. I think that is the real value to this, is that we've talked about this for years. There is room for a curation class of creator where it's their job to be somebody who can eloquently speak on behalf of all of these different bits of content and share them, and in so doing create their own unique curated experience. And I think that this is a place that can really sing, provided the library is extensive enough.
Yeah, and I could see this working for, you know, Hong Kong gangster films or Godzilla. Or
imagine Quentin Tarantino saying like, hey, here are the 10 movies that I ripped off to make all my other movies, right? And that kind of explosive language might be exactly the way he decides to phrase it, you know? And then they're like, oh my God, I want to know what those 10 movies are.
Yeah, this reminds me. I mean, there had to be similar marathons on like regular TV before. I'm pretty sure this existed in some form before Facebook did this watch party thing. And I think you're absolutely right that the power of curation is, I would say, vital for this to really take off. Because think about MST3K, right? The shows are kind of crap, but because there's a unique spin on it, there's a unique sort of humor and voice to the curation part of it that adds interest to whatever you could watch. You could be watching like B-grade movies, but because there's some kind of like flavor and context and all of those things, that adds, you know, pizzazz to an otherwise maybe boring movie or whatever. And this would be great for, like, I mean, not every episode of Buffy is going to be amazing, right? And there are some downs and there are some good ones. So I think having like Sarah Michelle Gellar or maybe Joss Whedon there saying, this wasn't good because behind the scenes somebody got sick that day. I don't know, something crazy like that. That would add a little bit more flavor to the show.
Well, and I think you could do that without taking anything away from the original. I think the old school model of all this would be like, oh, we can't say that. We can't admit that a performance was off or whatever. But we're entering, clearly when it's all the fans that are tuning in at the same time, they're there for the inside sauce on all this. They want to hear, and right up to, hey, listen, in a moment you can hear he mispronounces the name of the bad guy in 3, 2, 1, and then we're like, oh my God, he did. How did I not notice that?
And all that stuff happens in director's commentaries already. Yeah. This is a step up from that, right? Like this is something where you could possibly have an effect on the director's commentary because they see one of your questions or a clever remark you make or something like that.
Yeah, well, and I could totally picture, imagine a version of director's commentary where you already have your questions going in, and you could say hey, man, was that a deliberate homage to Fight Club in old school when you were clearly shooting at the same, diner, and you make a comment about clean food, and then they could be like, yes, it was.
Yeah. Well, folks, we're just talking about the Facebook approach here and Facebook Watch, and look how many different directions we could go with that. I'm curious. Think ahead. What other models could you see? This is what I want. This is the streaming service that doesn't exist that could take the fact that we figured out how to stream video over the internet pretty well now. They could take that and do something cool with it. Let us know. Cordkillers@gmail.com.
Oh, you know what?
Let's talk about what to watch.
Let me before we do. Let me throw my first example. If we're thinking way out of left field, what about a Reddit style thing where everybody creates their own curation and their own comment, and the crowds vote on the best, and then that defines. So in other words, rather than a central independent character being the host of it, instead it's all crowdsourced, and even the commentary come from 75 different people, but all the most highest upvoted things for individual moments, all of a sudden it becomes this meta narrative that's created by the crowd.
Sir, cordkillers@gmail.com, please.
Sorry, I jumped the line.
Suggestions.
I'm not even a patron though. That's what a bummer.
We'll read it next week on the show. Promise.
Not like this. All right. It's all about location.
Miners for fans.
Hey, last week Netflix announced a lot of things it's going to do. We're going to talk about a few of those, but it also announced one thing it won't do anymore: Daredevil. With the usual thanks to cast and crew, Netflix announced this last season of Daredevil is in fact the last, at least the last on Netflix. There are some simmering hints that maybe Daredevil might show up on Disney, maybe even in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, maybe with different actors. That's all uncertain. What is certain is no more Daredevil on Netflix, leaving upcoming seasons of The Punisher and Jessica Jones as the only Marvel series still left on Netflix for sure.
That seems fairly shocking. This third season I heard was pretty good, right?
I read an interview with one of the writers who was in the middle of scheduling writing sessions for the fourth season, which they have a story arc for, when they got the word, stop your work, folks. We ain't doing a season 4.
Yeah. Very surprised. I guess that's all I got to say.
I mean, I am surprised. I am also not shocked that Netflix and Disney are having a little slow motion fallout over the fact that Disney is launching a competing service, and they're very carefully disentangling themselves from each other. So I sort of wondered if Daredevil would be the exception, but apparently no.
I mean, I guess that I figured, of all the Netflix Marvel properties, I felt like Daredevil was reliably the strongest of all of them. And so in that regard, I'm surprised to see that that's the one that took the fall.
And you can put your money on the fact that The Punisher and Jessica Jones will have these similar announcements as soon as their seasons, which are already underway in production, hit Netflix. Because when Iron Man got canceled, nobody batted an eye, right? But then Luke Cage got canceled. Well, okay, I guess. Fist. Now Daredevil getting canceled, it's like, that's it. They're going to cancel all of them. There's no... Netflix announced it will bring out a live-action version of anime classic Cowboy Bebop. Original animated series director Shinichiro Watanabe will participate as a consultant. The series' original Japanese production company will share executive producer duties. Chris Yost, who wrote Thor Ragnarok, will write the first episode. Also, we'll talk about that, but hold on. A couple other anime news. Neon Genesis Evangelion is coming to Netflix in spring 2019. This is not a new series. It's the first time it's been streamed. And Netflix will host the premiere of the latest Ultraman anime series, which is a conversion of the latest manga reboot of the original TV series in April 2019. That will also be a world streaming debut.
Nicole clearly has thoughts.
Well, let's just start with, Neon Genesis Evangelion. Let's talk about that for a second. Like, this is the first time the series is going to be licensed for streaming ever. Just think about that. It has never been streamed ever.
You had to buy DVDs.
You had to buy DVDs. Like, there's a whole generation of people who has never watched a single episode of this thing. And I think it's kind of a big deal. I don't know, Bryce. You sort of entered this note in there. I think you might have thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, I also have never seen Evangelion because it was not streaming. You couldn't buy it digital. I don't think you could buy it digitally anywhere. You'd have to buy the discs.
No.
And then you get into the weird world of like, oh, is this who localized this? Is this subs? Is this dubs? And then at that point it's just like, someone will let me buy it, but to go straight to streaming via Netflix is a really big get. This is like the biggest get.
Well,
ever.
I know that. A friend of mine, Brett Weaver, is one of the voices in that, and he. I remember introducing him to Shannon Morris, who's very into anime,
right?
And I was like, "Oh, you guys are gonna get along famously." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I do anime voices." And she was like, "Yeah, like what?" With that little bit of off-putting attitude. And he was like, "Well, I was so and so in Evangelion," and she was like, "What?" And it was like instantly had credibility. So I know the reputation of it, but that's wonderful that there will be an easy way for me to reach out and experience all that.
And my understanding was that there was some question of whether they would get a new English dub for this. It sounded like they might. I don't know exactly. But they're also including the first two Evangelion movies. The one is basically a retelling of the series, and the other one extends the ending to make it more actiony, but not the new revived movies that they're still working on. So this will be more just the original arc.
Can we?
No, I was very carefully reading the responses on Nicole's face as I said, the original director of Cowboy Bebop will participate. She's like, okay. The original production company will be EP. There was a raised eyebrow. Okay. The idea of making a revered series like that live action is risky, right?
Oh my God. Yeah. Live action anything, to be fair, is risky. Like, I know a lot of people were very excited about The Lion King being live action, but I still have my doubts because I don't know. Like, it's live action anything, because the whole point of animation and anime is that there's so much creative freedom. You can do like all kinds of like facial reactions, all kinds of things you could do in like real life. Even with CGI and all of those special effects. But the fact that, as you mentioned, Tom, the fact that the original director is gonna be on board, and they have all of this help with the Japanese side of things. So okay, give it a shot, I guess. I don't know until you see it, I guess.
And there's trepidation because Netflix has two live action anime live action adaptations that they call originals. The Death Note one that they rewrote to take place in America, which was
Death Note.
It was no good at all.
Death Note is a freaking.
I know recently they made a live action adaptation of Bleach, or maybe they co-produced it, but that's also not great. I haven't actually seen that one yet, but I hear not great things. So it's like this is a huge hurdle to climb. It's like anyone getting this right is a high hurdle.
I have a strong feeling of confusion with even the idea that trying is bad. And that's what it boils down to is people are saying like, no, don't try this. I'm so afraid it will be bad that I don't even want you to try. And then they say, oh, what about Avatar: The Last Airbender? Well, guess what? Yes, there was a bad Avatar: The Last Airbender movie, and now there's going to be what looks to be a very good live action Avatar: The Last Airbender created by the actual people who do it. Likewise, there was a bad Iron Man movie. There was a bad Hulk movie. There was a bad Thor movie. Guess what we got? The MCU. There was a bad Judge Dredd movie, and then there was Dredd, which was absolutely fantastic. So this idea of don't try is utterly alien to me, and to me it just screams of I am afraid it will not be good. I am afraid that it will be known and I'll have to explain that the original was good and this is bad or whatever. But you've already been through that. We've all been through that. And I would gladly pay that price again to get another crack at the MCU. Of all of the criticisms, the most shocking one to me was we already have a live action Cowboy Bebop. It's called Firefly. To which I respond, yes. And we all deeply miss Firefly. Wouldn't it be great for someone to commit millions of dollars trying to capture that magic again? But again, my fandom is different than other people's, and maybe they're just thinking ahead of like, I don't want to get made fun of for loving something that turns out to have a bad adaptation of it.
No, I'm 100% with you, Brian. Yes, it might turn out bad. And yes, then you'll be angry that the thing you loved has been dissolved, right? That's usually how the criticism goes, is you're diluting the amazingness that is the thing I love by adding something to it that doesn't need to. And I'm just like, well, okay, if it's really that bad, it'll go away and people won't remember it. And the thing they'll remember is the good one. And I'm 100% with Brian, like, but man, if they try and win, if they do it and it's great, like how awesome would that be? So I'm on your side. Like try and yeah, sure, maybe it's likely you'll fail, but still, why not try? Because if it's not good, then everybody will hate it and not watch it, and it'll go away and people will forget about it.
And there's a side tangent as well for all of those failures where they try to directly adapt things, like the Akira movie never ended up happening. But there was chatter about an Akira movie. Like, look at the stuff that is peripheral. Like, what was it? Edge of Tomorrow was basically All You Need Is Kill. Is that what it was? The original manga. The Matrix was basically they walked in and said, "Hey, here's Ghost in the Shell. We want to do that, but live action." Yes, okay, maybe this will fail, but maybe in its failure, we'll get the real Cowboy Bebop movie under a different title and a different director and with different buzz in Hollywood. And so in general, like, the more at-bats you get, the better a home run you get. And anything that could bring me the experience of the Avengers movie all over again, I'm in favor of trying. It is a noble effort.
I think it's always good to try. I think it's always good to try, though, like, in the case of Cowboy Bebop, what if we just had another season of the show?
I actually think that would be worse. I think
worse than trying?
Well, no, because it is a complete story, and to staple on an appendix to that story, I don't think would be good. Whereas a retelling or a reimagining of that story, I think could be very good or very bad. Who knows?
I have just one addendum to all that, and I completely agree that it's okay for people to try new things, and then that's completely. I understand the reactions as well. The fact that it's a precious property, and some people are very, very beholden to the thing they love. But there's just one extra point that I think I understand why some people are upset, because there is this presumption, I think, in some circles that live action is better than animation. And I think that's what people are sort of maybe feeling reticent against. It's like this whole oh, it's live action, therefore it's better than and that's not true. That just isn't true. And then I think there may be some reticence in some of the fandom communities and saying they're doing this just because live action is better, or they believe that live action is inherently more believable or something.
Well, I think it's certainly more approachable.
Like
what I'm saying?
I think it's certainly more approachable for a bigger, subsection of people.
Yeah.
I'm just tired of all these Shakespeare reboots, My God, the man created the perfect play. Why do you have to mess with it? Netflix announced original animated events. These are not anime. They're animated events, series, and specials. all based on Roald Dahl novels. That's right. It's the Roald Dahl extended universe, including Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Matilda, the BFG, which was just made into a movie, but it's coming back here, the Twits, and more. Production starts next year. They're not doing all the Dahl properties. Missing particularly are The Witches, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and James and the Giant Peach.
That has to be, well, at least two of those were very recently made stop motion animation.
BFG was just made too, so there's just different rights issues with everything.
Right, correct. I'm assuming that behind the scenes there was some negotiations.
Yeah. Netflix ordered a police procedural called Criminal, set entirely in police interrogation rooms in France, Germany, Spain, and the UK, with appropriate local producers and writers for each 3-episode stint in those locations. Now, if the idea of a series, police procedural, all set in interrogation rooms is ringing a bell for you, that's because 2 weeks ago we were talking about a CBS All Access show called Interrogation with exactly that premise. Different setting, obviously, but this seems to be the hot new trend in naked shows.
Right on. I don't have a lot for that. What about you, Nicole?
I guess it's like a real life procedural kind of show, or is it? Sorry, I haven't really. Is it? I mean, is it fictional?
So they're police procedural. So you'll be trying to help figure out the criminal.
Oh, okay, all right. I mean, sounds fine with me. I mean, I have nothing against it.
These seem like try. No, these seem like writer's exercises. Like, you know, you flex your writing chops by being stripped of all the outside stuff.
And maybe come up with capture some magic or something. Deadline says Marvel will bring martial arts expert turned superhero Shang-Chi to the big screen. The character was created by Steve Englehart and Jim Starlin. First appeared in Marvel Comics in 1973. They did promise to update it for a modern world, not a 1973 world. But yeah, this appears to be, if Deadline is right, part of Phase 4.
I don't understand. It's like we already have the perfect version of Shang-Chi. It's in comic book format. Why try to...
Wait a minute. I think I see what you're doing there, Brian. I am not familiar with the comic, but I also was not that familiar with Iron Man either, and they did a great job. So I don't know. Is anybody a big fan?
Nah, not in my case.
Nicole?
No, sorry.
Well, good. Then we can all be delightfully introduced to the world of Shang-Chi. All right, let's talk about what we've had our eyes on lately. Nicole, what have you been watching?
I've been watching Shira, the new, the reimagining of Shira on Netflix.
Go and do that.
We already had the perfect Shira. She was called Shira. She was a princess of power.
Her name's Adora. She had a certain look to her. Why did she have to look all different now? I remember watching Shira as a kid, and I remember loving it as a child. But I don't remember like every single like storyline or anything, right? So watching this with fresh new eyes and loving it all over again, falling in love with the character all over again. And she is just it is just the perfect show about like a strong female figure. Like she has strong views, and but more than that, I think, without spoiling anything, there's a very interesting idea of like not all good people are good all the way, and not all bad people are bad. You know, without any context. Like, you know, bad people are also good. Like that. There's this whole like amazing. I don't know, moral undertone or context that really gives characters a really well-rounded. Is what I'm trying to say. Like, it's really good in general. It's very positive. LGBTQ like references in there. It's super. It's like if you know Steven Universe. Steven Universe is another like animation on a Cartoon Network, and that show is very female positive, very LGBT positive, and this to me strikes that same kind of tone, where like a lot of positive female figures, and not just that. I think Shira is good for like young girls to watch. I think it's good for young boys to watch, just to see, you know, like how people should be to each other. And the soul, I don't know, I love it so much. I can talk forever about the story arc, and I don't know, I love it. So I really love it because it's a children's show that an adult like me can really be into. I don't know, I think it's awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, I was a big fan of Shira as a kid, and I remember thinking, should I be watching this? I'm a boy. But no, and seriously, like, it helped me break out of that kind of mindset that I had been raised in somewhat.
Yeah, as very positive messaging. I mean, that sounds like, it's positive messaging. That sounds like really boring, but it's not. Like, it's super fun.
Eat your peas.
Eat your peas, the moral lesson. It's not that at all. The story is fascinating. The animation style it's kind of generic, but I think it's fine. It's perfect for Netflix. And I think, like, the story itself is super interesting. And I love that it's set in like a sci-fi universe, and there's like laser beams and it's like magic, and I don't know, I think super cool.
Very cool. Brian, what have you been watching?
I finished up The Bodyguard finally, or Bodyguard, not The Bodyguard, just Bodyguard. I have thoughts.
My Bodyguard.
I have thoughts that we'll discuss in spoiler in time. I don't know if you'll like them or agree with them. I did watch, of course, Dirk Gently, which was the other thing. Good Place is off this week, so I didn't watch that. But here's a fun one. I mentioned last week that I've been going through the back catalog of some Red Letter Media stuff. They did about a month ago, back in October, they went and watched the entire Psycho franchise on their rewatch series. And of course, you don't normally think of Psycho as a franchise. You think of it as the one movie and then a bunch of things that came afterwards. But those are movies I will never sit and watch all of. But now I feel like I've gotten the gist of what was good about each of them, if anything, and when there was anything. It's a really, really great retrospective. I highly recommend it. It's about an hour long between the two parts to watch it. And not only, of course, you find out all the things that are great about the original Psycho, but you find about all the homages that they made in the after ones, and which ones they were playing straight, which ones they were playing as cheesy slasher stuff, how it changed when Anthony Perkins directed one of the Psychos, and it's awesome. It's fantastic.
Very cool. I want to mention briefly that I finished watching season 3 of Man in the High Castle, and I'm still really a big fan. It's one of my favorite books of all time, if not my favorite sci-fi book of all time. And I thought it was a strong season and enjoyed watching every one. It's deep, it's dark, but what I was always worried about with that series is where they would go after they left the book, which they did at the end of season 1, pretty much. And they've taken it to some very interesting levels that are worthy of Philip K. Dick, at least in spirit. But the big thing I want to talk about is Train to Busan. Eileen wanted to watch this last night, and I was like, all right, sure, I'm in. It's 2 hours. We'll watch this, and then we'll eat dinner. It's a zombie movie. Don't eat dinner after a zombie movie. Watch this later, maybe. 2 hours, don't, like swimming. Wait until you after eating. It's really good. I am tired of zombie movies. I am burnt out on zombie movies. The idea of watching a zombie movie in general would not be appealing to me, but I'd heard this was really good. So I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. All takes place on a train between Seoul and Busan. Busan is on the beach. So you're talking about a several hour train ride. And the train is leaving the station right as the zombie breakout is happening. And a fund manager is accompanying his daughter to go stay with her mom in Busan because the two are separated. And of course, you can see where the drama goes from there, but it doesn't go to all the places you might expect. That has great characterizations, really good surprises. The suspense is handled impeccably, and I found myself enjoying a zombie movie, and I didn't think I would.
Right on. Bryce, what are you on the lookout for?
Hey, we got a recommendation that might entice Tom. The letter reads, I was listening to Tom and Roger's East Meets West food episode. That's Tom's podcast. And it occurred to me that Tom might find the show interesting. It is called Lords and Ladles, where 3 Irish chefs go to various Irish estates and they cook a menu for a dinner party in the estate's history. So a historical menu. The chefs Derry Clark, Catherine Fulvio, and Paul Flynn take 3 different roles each week. One is the main chef, and they plan and cook the meal. One person is the gatherer, where they get historic ingredients or some kind or substitutions from modern sources, and then the third chef is the historian to explain the history of the estate and the history behind that particular dinner party. The show is on Netflix. Sincerely, Kimberly, the Texas teacher. Thank you, Kimberly. 2 seasons of Lords and Ladles are streaming now on Netflix in 13 countries, which does not include the UK and Ireland, but you might have good luck watching that on RTE's RTE Player. That looks like a BBC iPlayer sort of thing. So check that. That's the original network that it's from. So you might have some luck there.
Excellent. Thank you, Kimberly. That does sound something like something I'd enjoy. I might download that for a plane ride or something. That sounds pretty cool. If you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. It's the most wonderful time of the year, folks. The time when Brian makes your lives better by selling you cool things.
Hells to the yes, man. It's all over at scamstuff.com. That's gear for the modern rogue. Let me tell you, we did a big deal with our Black Friday, Cyber Monday stuff, and I know a bunch of people are thinking, oh, I already missed it. What's the point? Hey, between you, me, and the wall, we kind of sort of left the discounts active.
What,
so,
really? It was 2 weeks ago.
Shh. I mean, it's but don't tell David that I said this. Actually, I think they're not quite as good as they are on that day. But everything is still on sale for this moment. If we still have time to get stuff out to you for Christmas, I think you guys are really going to dig it. We've gone to extreme lengths to make sure everything is as clever and unique as possible so that nobody will, if you're just looking for something out of left field that people are going to be like, oh my God, this is so incredibly thoughtful and clever and I haven't seen anything like this, then do me a favor, check out scamstuff.com. I think you're going to like it.
Let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
Nielsen reports that more than 2/3 of U.S. homes have devices able to stream video, and nearly 8 billion hours of programming is streamed over connected TV devices. This is looking at stats that separate your computer and your mobile device from television. People aged 13 to 34 spend twice the time streaming if they're watching on a connected TV device compared with watching on a computer or mobile device. They basically spend an hour per day on a TV connected device versus 36 minutes on a computer or 26 minutes on a mobile device. Only 3% of live TV viewers across the 5 TV networks between the ages of 18 and 24. So this age group is not watching broadcast TV network shows live, but they are spending more time when they watch streaming video if they do it connected to a television. So abandoning television, but not abandoning television.
Yeah, I guess there's something magic about having the big shiny box in the living room that keeps everybody plugged in.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Hulu has made Discovery, TLC, Motor Trend, Animal Planet, and ID available with a live TV. Library episodes from other Discovery networks like Food and HGTV were added to Hulu's on-demand service. Hulu's Destination America, Discovery Family, Science, Discovery Life, and AHC Entertainment package and Spanish packages added some Discovery networks as well.
So yeah, that's Hulu with live TV versus Hulu, which is really horrible naming, Hulu. Could you come up with something else? Because it's really hard to explain this to people. But if you're getting their cable replacement, Hulu with live TV, you get a bunch of Discovery channels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plex is now offering access to Tidal's high-quality music streaming service. The $10 a month service is only $9 if you're a Plex Pass subscriber. And the music will just show up right next to the stuff in your catalog. So we have a lot of Plex users in the audience. I thought they might be interested.
So the Tidal streaming service, is that pretty much all the same music that you would get on Spotify or Pandora?
I mean,
Premium?
there are
some
differences
exclusives
between them, but yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
The big one is Beyonce. Tidal has more Beyonce.
Got it. At 10 a.m. local time, December 1st, Japanese TV networks NHK began broadcasting in 8K. That's a lot of Ks. By satellite with 22.2 channel surround, with its first movie listed as 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was rescanned from the original negatives for this broadcast. Sharp began selling its first super high vision ready TVs with the built-in tuner last month for around $6,000. Tom, I got to tell you, it just seems to me like at 8K, Finally, you'll be able to see the noise of the film grain in proper fidelity. Like, what else is there?
Well, yeah, I mean, the reason they picked 2001 is it was shot in 70 millimeter, right? So there's a lot of resolution, a lot of film resolution to pack in there. And it apparently looked really good. Although every 8K review I read basically says, I don't know. When I got more than a foot away from it, it didn't really look that much better than 4K.
Yeah. Do you have pixel fever, Nicole?
No, I do most of my watching on this little computer right here, so it's kind of lost on me. But I do have a TV. We use it to watch movies together. But I don't have an 8K TV, and I think I'm fine. That said, I'm pretty sure 8K would be like all over CES in like a couple of months. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe in like 10 years or something. I
mean, this is a technological moment, not a consumer moment. This is Japan getting ready for the Olympics, wanting to be able to say all the cool things they're doing at the Olympics in 2020, including broadcasting in 8K, which is the future. We're not going to really get 8K service for several years. And at which point, there's going to have to be something like HDR or some nifty, cool trick that we all want to do to make people really want to get things in 8K, because otherwise,
once we get to HK, then all of a sudden we're in like that Total Recall world where it's like you have video walls, where it's like in order to even appreciate the benefits of it, it's got to be the size of an entire wall.
Right. That's a really good point. I've been trying to think like 8K is going to bring about something, but it may not be just a better TV, right? At $6,600, that's not bad, right? So for this early in the adoption, by the time there's actually programming you might want to watch, it's probably just going to be in all the televisions. So if you buy a new television, it'll be capable of 8K. Whether you'll want to rebuy movies in 8K or not, probably you won't care.
I mean, think about it this way. Imagine 8K displays getting as cheap as like $2,000 for, let's say, 10-foot wide displays. Then all of a sudden, for less than 10 grand, you're able to create visual scapes in a room. You're able to walk in and say, take me to the beach. And all of a sudden, you look around and you're in the beach. I did some pitches.
There's no more mounting your TV to the wall. It is your wall.
Exactly. And I think that's where we're headed. And you could get a taste of that. I did some pitches over at Netflix, and when you walk in, they have these OLED walls all the way around, and they are, I think, around 8K. And it was enough that it really confused me, because I thought I was seeing just a painted wall, or maybe there was like a black light shining on it, like you're at a miniature golf course. And then all of a sudden, a boat sailed across it, and for a second I was fooled, and I realized I was like, oh, this is how it's going to be in everybody's home in the future.
Yeah, no, I think that's it, right? This isn't about like, get ready to buy your new TV to watch Deadpool in 8K. This is something totally different. Agreed. I say that because Deadpool was the first movie I bought in 4K, so it just sticks in my head. Let's get to some dispatches from the front. Chris wrote in and said, hey guys, just listened to the episode, and Ian was technically correct that Crave in Canada includes HBO, but you need to pay for the $20 per month package. The $10 per month package does not include HBO or the movie network. Good clarification there, in case you were Canadian, very excited about getting HBO on Crave. You have to pay a little more.
Mike writes in saying, hello, employees. Maybe this is the wrong podcast to ask, but what VPN do you guys use? Purchased a new laptop and have never set up in a VPN before. Wanted to travel the world like Tom does. Been supporting you guys for years on Patreon. Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Mike. I have a take on this, but I'd love to hear from both of you guys. Do you have a favorite VPN?
Nicole, you want to go first?
I just use Sonic's VPN, which is my ISP, and they offer a VPN for free. That's the one. That's what I use.
I have a private tunnel account. It for years was my default VPN because I paid for a bunch of you paid by the bytes. I paid for a bunch of bytes in 2012, and I still have them. I have not run out. But honestly, I've started using ExpressVPN almost exclusively because it's just got more servers. It's got better throughput. and it works great on the phone. So my choice these days is ExpressVPN.
I used ExpressVPN until NordVPN approached Monorail as a sponsor, and keep in mind, I was satisfied with ExpressVPN. I was blown away by NordVPN. Fastest by far, way faster in my experience than ExpressVPN. Also, there's little things like I dig the fact that they're registered in Panama, so they can't be compelled. They don't keep records of anything. So if privacy is important to you, they make it really, really easy to just have it on all the time. Couldn't be happier with NordVPN. Full disclosure, they're a sponsor of the Modern Rogue, and if you go to nordvpn.com/modernrogue, you can get 3 years at 75% off.
And if you're throwing things at Brian right now, do know that PC Mag gives NordVPN 5 out of 5, an outstanding rating. Like it is a respected VPN out there.
The more this is an ad read.
I didn't expect it, and yes, I mean this is full disclosure, but it is a case where I had gone through I think 4 different VPNs before these came along as a sponsor, and all of a sudden it was just like next level. I was like, okay, well, we're getting married.
I still prefer ExpressVPN. It's all a matter of personal situations. Sean wrote in and said, "Hey, underlings, Tom, Brian, Bryce, and possible guest host." That would be Nicole. You had a story about cable TV fees going up for the local and regional sports channels to a whopping $18 a month. I would be thrilled to have this service for only $18. I would then supplement my TV with Philo for the non-sports and non-local entertainment. I get that the legacy TV company is not actually providing such a package, but they should. Okay, Sean, if you're criticizing Sean and going, well, that's not the cost of the package. The sports cost a lot, and then the $18 is extra. That's not Sean's point. Sean's point is like, hey, if you actually offered me sports for $18 a month a la carte, I'd take it. Sean, go to Sling TV. Basically get that. It's $20, not $18, but it's pretty darn close. And no, you won't get all the sports unless you pay $25 to get the sports package, but $18, $25, I mean, are we still out of your ballpark? And Sling TV gives you the ability to sign into the ESPN app and get all the ESPN channels in Watch ESPN, as if you were just a regular cable subscriber. So there's this weird thing where some people are like, yeah, but I don't want all that other stuff in Sling. It's like, well, just pretend it's not there then and just use it for the things you want. If you'd pay $18 for it, you're pretty much almost there already, right?
Well, and honestly, the Sling package that has like all the ESPNs and stuff is mostly ESPN.
Right.
And then some other cable stuff, like you get AMC or whatever. Like it's not a lot of extra stuff you're getting on that $20 package.
Also, if you like certain sports over others, it's even easier. Mm-hmm. If you like, baseball over soccer or whatever, it's even easier to pick the sports you want.
Right.
Yeah.
And finally, Mel writes in saying, I think AT&T would be better off making a dongle or box that's only for DirecTV Now without all the other apps, since most TVs have those apps built in. That way, it can focus on a flawless operating system. I'm sure nobody will debate you.
Sure. Don't debate us at cordkillers@gmail.com. What I will point out to Mel, and maybe Mel knows this, but the operating system already they're using Android as the operating system. It already has the apps. So it's a question of like, do we go ahead and leave Netflix and Hulu installed on the dongle and then lock everything else down or not? I don't know that eliminating those apps would improve the operating system, but that may not be what Mel meant. Mel may have meant, I just mean that it'll be a better, more functional operating system because it won't have all those apps running in the background or having to run in the background, et cetera. There's a fair argument to be had there. Well, thank you, Nicole Lee, for putting up with all our fair arguments on today's show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
If people want to follow what you do, where should they go?
They just can go to twitter.com/Nicole/NICOLE.
It's the first person I ever followed on Twitter, and it should be the person you follow next.
That's right.
Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack, which is also carried on diamondclub.tv, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. I'll see you next time.
Hey guys, Brian and Tom here, and it's just the same old message at the end of the credits, just like always.
That's right, Brian. Nothing new here except your name showing up.
Oh my gosh,
because
I've got a
you
name.
just supported us on Patreon.
Yeah, all those $5 donors. Look at that. That's your name in pixels. We're gonna make you famous, kid. Put your
There's
name in
some
pixels on
classic
the internet.
names in there, but some of you are new. Some of you aren't there. It's sad. What can they do, Brian?
I mean, they could go to patreon.com/Cordkillers and pledge $5 an episode and be one of these amazing people, like this one.
Amazing.
Oh, look at that name right there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.